What is up, YouTube? How y'all doing? I can't believe, God, I can't believe Diddy locked in a cell, tunnels under his house, and he can't make bail. How y'all doing, man? Hit that subscribe button, hit that bell, baby. Hit that subscribe button, hit that bell. Uncle Mike is about to hit 5. We got a little ways to go, man. Y'all getting real slow on them subscribe. Hit that subscribe button, help our brother out. I'm in here working hard as I can. I'm trying to work on the YouTube course. We got a YouTube course. Don't forget about our other channel, man. Music Recording Network Stream. We got a stream channel also. I want you guys to go over there and subscribe, man. Help push that channel again. We done broke the channel. We broke the channel, y'all. We done tore the channel all to hell. But it's 65,000 subscribers over there, and I'm trying to get another plat. I need 2 of those, man. What's up? What's up with y'all, man? Help a brother out. Links in the description. Leave a comment. I got my people. We commenting and letting you know it's a link. It should be a link in the comment section. Go check. Shout out to my comment section and shout out to all the enders. But check this out, Demi. I get too excited, y'all. I get too excited when somebody do wrong, and they get punished. I like that because justice should be served. Diddy's empire collapsed. The untold financial truth. Hit that subscribe button. Hit that bell. Did I give my thumbs up already? Let's check it out. Disclaimer.
What if I told you Diddy's legal nightmare isn't over, but just beginning? After his sentencing, prosecutors hit him with something far more devastating than prison time: forfeiture. That means the government isn't just after his freedom. They're coming for his money, his homes, his cars, even his jets. And now, reports confirm that Diddy has officially agreed to surrender key property and electronics to the federal government. But buried in that paperwork is something no one's talking about: a loophole that gives prosecutors the green light to go after everything else, from his luxury mansions to the corporate accounts that allegedly funded illegal activities. The Department of Justice just opened a door that Diddy might never close again. Before we break it all down, thank you all for 1,000 subscribers. Your support is incredible. Our next goal is 10,000, and with how powerful this community is, we can make it happen. So if you want real updates, no gossip, just facts, make sure to like this video, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next drop. Now let's dive into how the government's next move could wipe out Diddy's empire, piece by piece. Diddy's lawyers thought signing that forfeiture agreement was just another legal formality, a way to look compliant, maybe even strategic. But what they didn't say out loud is what's terrifying everyone behind the scenes. Because when you agree to surrender property, you're not just handing over old cell phones and laptops. You're opening the door for the government to follow the money and everything connected to it. The moment those electronics were listed in the filing, it created a digital roadmap. Every message, every wire transfer, every email that connects Diddy's company accounts to illegal activity can now be used to justify full asset seizure. And here's where it gets darker. The Department of Justice didn't waive their right to pursue further forfeitures. That means the feds are just getting started. If even one device, one bank statement, or one recorded transaction links Diddy's private jets, studio spaces, or properties to illegal acts, every one of them could be next. Think about that for a second. This isn't about Diddy losing one case. This is about the system dismantling his empire one asset at a time. Now you might think, okay, they got some phones and laptops, what's the big deal? But that's the first cliff in this avalanche. Because what's hidden in those devices isn't just communication, it's coordination. And the government believes those files will show patterns of payment, planning, and participation. Stay with me, because in the next part we'll uncover the exact loophole that lets prosecutors seize not just dirty money, but anything even used during a crime. This is where things start getting very personal for Diddy. Here's where it gets dangerous for Diddy. Because under federal law, the forfeiture game isn't just about money made from crime. It's about anything used to commit or promote it. That means the feds don't have to prove every dollar came from wrongdoing. They only need to show that a property, jet, or business account was used in connection with illegal acts. It's called facilitation forfeiture, and it's a silent financial death sentence. Imagine this, the same private jet Diddy used to fly to events, the same studio where business meetings turned into private parties. If prosecutors find evidence those spaces were part of the operation, they can take them, even if they were bought legally. Think about how wide that net is. And here's the chilling part. The law gives prosecutors total discretion to connect these dots later. They don't need to prove it all now. They can come back months from now, point to a single wire transfer, and reopen the entire case. In legal terms, Diddy's empire is officially subject to ongoing forfeiture review. The government's language is clear. Any home, vehicle, aircraft, or real property used to facilitate or conceal violations may be seized. That phrase, used to facilitate, is everything. It's broad, it's powerful, and it's deadly for anyone whose lifestyle crossed legal lines. Now, Diddy's team insists that this is procedural, but prosecutors don't file language like that unless they're leaving the door wide open. And if those digital records show any movement of money from a corporate account to fund travel or hospitality for illegal acts, then the DOJ just found its golden ticket. And this is where you'll want to keep watching, because in the next section, we'll get into the financial trap Diddy may have walked himself into without even realizing it. It's not about what he bought, it's about how he paid for it. This is where it starts to crumble, because now prosecutors aren't chasing rumors or headlines. They're chasing transactions. Every dollar Diddy moved through his companies, every payment disguised as a business expense, is under the microscope. See, when you pay for personal activities or illegal services using corporate funds, you don't just blur ethical lines, you break financial law. Prosecutors proved in court that Diddy used company bank accounts to pay for transportation, housing, and yes, even for private entertainment. That's all it takes. One payment from a corporate ledger tied to illegal conduct, and the government calls it tainted proceeds. Here's why that's a nightmare for Diddy, because those aren't his accounts anymore. Once proven connected, they legally belong to the government until cleared. The same accounts that paid artists, business partners, maybe even staff, can now be frozen, seized, or audited. And when the IRS Criminal Investigation Division gets involved, and trust me, they will, it turns into more than a forfeiture. It becomes a financial crimes case. That's how the feds took down mob bosses and corporate execs alike. You don't need witnesses when you have numbers that don't lie. But what's worse is that this might only be the start. If they link those transactions to leased properties, hotels, or jets used during illegal acts, then every space Diddy touched becomes evidence. It's not about what he owned, it's about what he used. Now, before we move forward, thank you again for helping us hit 1,000 subscribers. You've been amazing with your comments, support, and feedback. Let's aim for 10,000 next. Hit that like button if you're still with me, and share this video so more people understand what's really happening behind the headlines. Because next, we're breaking down the exact mechanism the feds use to take everything. How one phrase in federal law gives them more power than anyone realizes. And it's the part Diddy's team can't stop, no matter how many lawyers he hires. Here's where things take a sharp turn. The part that's keeping Diddy's entire legal team up at night. It's called the Facilitation Clause. Under this federal rule, anything that helps or enables a criminal act can be taken by the government, even if it was bought legally. They don't have to prove that the item itself came from illegal money. They only need to prove it was used in connection with a violation. That could mean a mansion, a jet, a luxury car, or even a recording studio. Now, here's what makes this especially dangerous. The feds already confirmed that Diddy used company funds for travel, accommodations, and personal arrangements. So if investigators can show that any of his homes, flights, or properties played a role in these activities, those assets could be labeled as facilitation property. And once that happens, they're fair game for seizure. Think about that. One trip, one private recording session, or even one hotel stay could now be tied into a much larger case. That's why analysts say this isn't just a legal issue anymore. It's the potential dismantling of an empire. The Department of Justice moves strategically. They don't rush. They quietly trace payments, emails, and communication logs, and when the trail is clear, they act. So when people say, he only lost some electronics, they're missing the bigger picture. Those laptops and phones aren't just devices. They're digital breadcrumbs that could lead investigators straight to his high-value assets. And what's next could be even worse for Diddy, because if prosecutors choose to expand the case, they don't just stop at his personal property, they can go directly after his companies. And that's where the real financial damage begins. This is where it gets dangerous for Diddy, because once the feds connect the money trail, everything starts to collapse like a chain reaction. Here's how it works. When prosecutors prove that company accounts were used for personal favors, the law views those transactions as tainted funds. Even if the money originally came from a clean business deal, the moment it's used to finance or conceal anything illegal, it becomes part of the case. That means the government can freeze, seize, or claw back those funds, and even target the companies that handled them. Here's the twist. Investigators don't have to prove the entire company was corrupt, only that one single payment connected to an illegal act was knowingly made. Once that link is verified, every dollar in that account becomes traceable. Think about what that means for Diddy's empire. We're talking about multiple record labels, production companies, fashion brands, and real estate ventures, all funded through shared accounts and overlapping business entities. If even one of those accounts is found to have been used for a suspicious transaction, the whole structure can be pulled apart. And what's worse, corporate forfeiture doesn't wait for a criminal conviction. The DOJ can file a civil claim and start freezing assets long before a judge signs off on sentencing. That's what happened in several high-profile cases. One wrong financial move, and the empire begins to crumble from the inside out. Now imagine how this looks from inside Diddy's team. Every accountant, every business partner, every assistant who's ever processed a payment is now under the microscope. The government is combing through wire transfers, reimbursements, and digital receipts, looking for that one transaction that ties everything together. And from what insiders are saying, the trail doesn't look good. Because one email, one invoice, one message confirming event coordination or travel reimbursement could be the exact piece of evidence that changes everything. But hold on, because in the next section, we'll break down what the IRS just stepped into this case for. And that's when things go from financial pressure to total corporate collapse. This is where it gets dangerous for Diddy. Because once the feds connect the money trail, everything starts to collapse like a chain reaction. Here's how it works. When prosecutors prove that company accounts were used for personal favors, the law views those transactions as tainted funds. Even if the money originally came from a clean business deal, the moment it's used to finance or conceal anything illegal, it becomes part of the case. That means the government can freeze, seize, or claw back those funds, and even target the companies that handled them. Here's the twist. Investigators don't have to prove the entire company was corrupt, only that one single payment connected to an illegal act was knowingly made. Once that link is verified, every dollar in that account becomes traceable. Think about what that means for Diddy's empire. We're talking about multiple record labels, production companies, fashion brands, and real estate ventures, all funded through shared accounts and overlapping business entities. If even one of those accounts is found to have been used for a suspicious transaction, the whole structure can be pulled apart. And what's worse, corporate forfeiture doesn't wait for a criminal conviction. The DOJ can file a civil claim and start freezing assets long before a judge signs off on sentencing. That's what happened in several high-profile cases. One wrong financial move, and the empire begins to crumble from the inside out. Now imagine how this looks from inside Diddy's team. Every accountant, every business partner, every assistant who's ever processed a payment is now under the microscope. The government is combing through wire transfers, reimbursements, and digital receipts, looking for that one transaction that ties everything together. And from what insiders are saying, the trail doesn't look good, because one email, one invoice, one message confirming event coordination or travel reimbursement could be the exact piece of evidence that changes everything. But hold on, because in the next section, we'll break down what the IRS just stepped into this case for. And that's when things go from financial pressure to total corporate collapse. This is the moment where everything changes. See, most people think the Department of Justice and the IRS operate separately, but when their investigations overlap, that's when a case goes from serious to career-ending. The DOJ focuses on proving criminal intent, while the IRS focuses on financial patterns. When they share data, it creates a full-spectrum picture: motive, movement, and money. And Diddy? He's right in the center of that triangle. Here's how it plays out behind the scenes. The DOJ identifies the illegal activities, the events, the transportation, the payments, and hands the IRS all connected financial data. The IRS then traces those payments through company ledgers, credit card statements, and reimbursements. If they find that Diddy's businesses knowingly covered any expense related to those activities, that becomes double evidence: one count of facilitation and one count of tax fraud. It's a perfect legal storm, because Diddy can't argue both sides. He can't say the money wasn't used illegally, and he can't claim those same expenses as legitimate business deductions. The moment he contradicts one defense, he confirms the other. That's the trap the feds are building, slowly, carefully, and publicly. And if you've noticed lately, Diddy's legal team has been unusually quiet. That's not a good sign. Silence in cases like this usually means negotiations are happening behind closed doors. Not about guilt, but about what he's willing to give up to avoid a bigger fall. But don't go anywhere, because in the next section, we're diving into what those negotiations might actually look like. How much could Diddy lose? And more importantly, what could he still be hiding? Behind the courtroom drama and headlines, there's a quieter war being fought, the one you don't see in public. Diddy's lawyers are now likely deep in damage control mode, negotiating with federal prosecutors to protect what's left of his empire. And the biggest clue? The silence. See, when legal teams go quiet, it's not because they've run out of arguments. It's because they've started talking privately with the government. And those conversations are all about one thing: what Diddy can trade for stability. That could mean surrendering assets, paying massive fines, or even providing cooperation in exchange for a softer landing. Now here's where things get interesting. The forfeiture deal he signed didn't end the government's reach. It simply opened the door for them to dig deeper. And now, if the DOJ believes there's still unreported money, offshore accounts, or shell companies tied to the transactions, they can demand financial transparency agreements. Basically, full access to Diddy's books for years. If he refuses, they can freeze those accounts until he complies. That's how the government forces cooperation without ever filing a new charge. It's the quiet pressure that never goes away. And while all this happens, Diddy's lawyers are balancing two impossible goals: keep him out of additional criminal exposure and keep the brand alive. Because every leak, every document, every seized asset tells the world that this empire wasn't built on business alone. It was built on secrets. Now, if you think this story ends here, it doesn't. Because in the next section, we're going to look at how these negotiations could set off a domino effect across Diddy's entire business circle, and how one wrong move could take everyone down with him. This is where things start to spiral. Because when the money moves, so do the people attached to it. Diddy's empire wasn't just built on one company. It was a web, dozens of LLCs, publishing firms, fashion brands, liquor deals, and music ventures, all cross-connected through shared accounts and shell entities. Now here's the problem. If even one of those entities is proven to have funded or facilitated illegal activity, they all come under review. The DOJ doesn't just freeze one account. They trace every connection to see where the money went next. That means producers, managers, partners, and even friends could find their own accounts flagged for secondary review. Think about it. Imagine being a business partner who received consulting payments from one of Diddy's companies. You might not have done anything wrong, but if that money is traced back to a flagged account, the feds treat you like part of the chain until you prove otherwise. And that's expensive, time-consuming, and reputation-destroying. We've already seen this pattern before. When one high-profile figure falls, the fallout hits everyone in their orbit. Remember when other music executives and former collaborators started quietly distancing themselves? That wasn't coincidence, that was self-preservation. But here's where it gets darker. Some insiders believe Diddy's been trying to shield certain assets by transferring ownership to trusted associates, people who might not realize they're now holding property under investigation. That's a risky move, because if those transfers are proven to be strategic, made after his indictment or while under investigation, it's considered fraudulent conveyance, and the government can reverse every single one. So while Diddy's team may think they're protecting his wealth, they might actually be exposing more people to legal risk. And you can bet the feds are watching every transaction right now. But this next part, it's where it really gets shocking. Because there's one asset that the government is reportedly eyeing that no one saw coming. Stick around. You're not going to believe what might be next on the forfeiture list. When people think of forfeiture, they picture the obvious: mansions, cars, and cash. But the government, they think bigger. And according to insiders following this case, the next major target could be something far more symbolic: Diddy's music catalog itself. That's right, the same catalog that defined hip-hop for decades. The tracks, the publishing rights, the royalties could now be under federal review. Why? Because if investigators can prove that Diddy used his company's funds, connections, or operations to further any part of his alleged misconduct, then those profits, even creative ones, become part of what's called derived proceeds. In plain English, if the empire was even partly built on the same money trail they're investigating, then those music rights could be considered tainted. Now imagine the irony. The songs that once celebrated wealth and power could become the very evidence of their downfall. The DOJ has used this same strategy before, taking intellectual property, not because they want to own it, but because it represents value that can be seized to repay victims or penalties. And here's where it gets even deeper. Music catalogs aren't just sentimental, they're financial gold mines. Over the years, Diddy's Bad Boy Records catalog has been valued in the hundreds of millions. Every sample, every streaming check, every commercial placement, all of it flows through legal entities. If one of those entities was compromised, the whole stream could be redirected straight to the federal government. And this isn't speculation, it's precedent. The same forfeiture model was used in corruption cases against other moguls, where creative assets were liquidated to cover massive financial penalties. So if the DOJ moves in that direction, this wouldn't just be a financial hit, it would be a legacy hit. Every artist he ever produced, every song that carried his name, could now be tied to an empire collapsing under federal scrutiny. But if you think that's the end of it, it's not, because what the feds are doing next could make even this look small. In the next section, we'll talk about how they plan to expand the net beyond Diddy himself, and why that's what his inner circle fears most. See, this is where the quiet panic really begins, not just for Diddy, but for everyone who's ever worked beside him, cashed his checks, or helped move his money. Because the DOJ's next move isn't just about what Diddy owns, it's about who helped him run it. When federal investigations reach this stage, they stop looking at the star at the top and start looking at the network beneath them. That means accountants, lawyers, business managers, assistants, and even personal staff who handled routine transactions could now be questioned. And once that happens, everyone starts pointing fingers to save themselves. Former employees are already rumored to be cooperating quietly, not because they want to, but because they have to. The feds often often give early witnesses immunity deals or leniency in exchange for inside details. And when that starts happening, the narrative shifts fast. Documents only show numbers, but witnesses, they show intent. And that's what prosecutors really want. The story behind the receipts. Who knew what and when? Who signed off on transfers from those corporate accounts? Who booked the flights, arranged the hotels, or approved business reimbursements that didn't add up? Insiders have already said multiple subpoenas have gone out to people once considered untouchable in Diddy's world. Business managers, former producers, and even a few longtime associates who were part of his inner circle for years. These aren't rumors anymore. This is the stage where cooperation becomes survival. And here's the real twist. Some of these people might not even realize that by defending him publicly, they're putting themselves under more scrutiny. Every quote, every social media post, every leaked text can be cross-referenced with financial timelines. And the DOJ is meticulous. They'll notice every inconsistency. For Diddy, this isn't just a fight for his fortune anymore. It's a fight for loyalty, because the more the pressure builds, the faster those loyalties crumble. And according to one insider, that's already happening behind the scenes. But here's where it gets even more intense, because the next move from prosecutors might not involve Diddy at all. In fact, it could involve someone much closer to him, someone who could turn this entire case upside down. And that's exactly where we're headed next. Behind every empire's collapse, there's always that one person who knows too much, the insider who turns the whole thing on its head. And in Diddy's case, word from multiple sources suggests the feds may already have that person, someone from inside his trusted circle, a former associate or employee who's ready to flip. Now, when prosecutors have piles of documents and bank records but need the missing context, they look for a bridge, someone who was there, who saw the money move, who heard the conversations, and can say, yes, that's what really happened. That's what this person could be. And from what's circulating, this isn't just a minor witness. This could be a senior figure, possibly an accountant or executive assistant who handled transactions for years. That's the kind of testimony that can turn a paper trail into a conviction, because while lawyers can argue over intent, an eyewitness can erase doubt. If this insider starts naming names, it doesn't just hurt Diddy, it unravels the entire infrastructure around him. Every company under his control, every partner, every deal could come under scrutiny. This isn't just about forfeiture anymore, it's about accountability. And let's be real, the DOJ loves cooperation deals. If they can get one key witness to lay out how funds moved, or who approved what, it saves them years of work and locks the case airtight. Diddy's legal team knows this, which is why they've reportedly been trying to figure out who's talking and what's being said. But by now, it might already be too late. And here's what's chilling. Insiders say the tone inside Diddy's camp has changed completely. The usual confidence is gone. Phone calls are short, meetings are quiet, and everyone's watching their words. Because when one domino falls in a case like this, you never know how many will follow. But if you think this is the end, it's not. Because what's about to happen next could determine whether Diddy's empire survives at all, or whether this is the moment it all disappears for good. And trust me, that final chapter is coming faster than anyone expected. Behind every empire's collapse, there's always that one person who knows too much, the insider who turns the whole thing on its head. And in Diddy's case, word from multiple sources suggests the feds may already have that person, someone from inside his trusted circle, a former associate or employee who's ready to flip. Now, when prosecutors have piles of documents and bank records but need the missing context, they look for a bridge, someone who was there, who saw the money move, who heard the conversations, and can say, yes, that's what really happened. That's what this person could be. And from what's circulating, this isn't just a minor witness. This could be a senior figure, possibly an accountant or executive assistant who handled transactions for years. That's the kind of testimony that can turn a paper trail into a conviction. Because while lawyers can argue over intent, an eyewitness can erase doubt. If this insider starts naming names, it doesn't just hurt Diddy, it unravels the entire infrastructure around him. Every company under his control, every partner, every deal could come under scrutiny. This isn't just about forfeiture anymore, it's about accountability. And let's be real, the DOJ loves cooperation deals. If they can get one key witness to lay out how funds moved, or who approved what, it saves them years of work and locks the case airtight. Diddy's legal team knows this, which is why they've reportedly been trying to figure out who's talking and what's being said. But by now it might already be too late. And here's what's chilling. Insiders say the tone inside Diddy's camp has changed completely. The usual confidence is gone. Phone calls are short, meetings are quiet, and everyone's watching their words. Because when one domino falls in a case like this, you never know how many will follow. But if you think this is the end, it's not. Because what's about to happen next could determine whether Diddy's empire survives at all, or whether this is the moment it all disappears for good. And trust me, that final chapter is coming faster than anyone expected. If you made it this far, you're a real one. Thank you for riding with Fame Insight. We just hit 1,000 subscribers, and that's all thanks to you. Now the next goal is 10,000, and I know we can get there together. So make sure you hit that subscribe button, drop a like, and tell me what you think in the comments below. Your thoughts and your support keep this channel growing. And trust
Hit that subscribe button and hit that bell. Hit that subscribe button, y'all. Everybody wants subscribers. Check it out, man. I think 80 civil cases, and you in jail, which means your lawyers got to do a lot of work, 80 of them. If you win or lose, it's going to cost you. May cost you a little, may cost you a lot, but it's going to cost you. So Diddy got a lot of bills, especially maintaining that airplane you better get rid of or charter that thing out so it can pay for itself. I don't know. Them problems he have is too big for my wallet. So look here, man, I'm going to get on up out of here. I really think Diddy problems, him trying to get out of jail, is a small problem. He got bigger problems than that. Being in jail might sound like a big problem, but them cases, all you need is one of those cases to turn criminal. And I think the Lil Rod case is going to turn criminal. I think one of these judges is going to take that judge's side and throw the book at him. Let's see. Y'all take it light, take it slow. Y'all tell him Uncle Mike told you so. Peace out.